Welcome to the source of commercial real estate, where we talk to the experts in non-residential commercial real estate so you can grow your business, find a competitive advantage, and use real estate to live the life that you want. I am your host, Jonathan Hayek, and today I am talking with Michael Bull of Bull Realty. Michael, I am grateful and honored that you are joining me here today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jonathan. I appreciate you having me on.
Perfect. Michael, why don't we get started by you telling us about your background, how you got started in real estate, and what your work looks like today?
Okay, well, so I'll try to make this in 60 seconds or so if I can. I've been in commercial real estate all my career. When I was in college, I had to have a job. I was going to school at night, and my first job was renting apartments, and then I learned how to manage and turn those apartments around. And then while I was still in college, I got a job running a property management company, and I helped triple the size of that company, and then got my real estate license at 19. And so at 22, I got out of property management and just went into full-time commission-only sales as a broker. And I mainly focused on apartments back then, and then did that and had a great career. I was a local broker in Atlanta doing a lot of apartment sales for many years. And then I decided to start my own company because I wanted to work for a company known for integrity, and that anyone working with my company name would be known for integrity. And so I started Bull Realty 26 years ago. We're licensed in, I don't know how many states now, 9 or 11 in the Southeast mainly. And we have about 50 brokers, been around 26 years. And we have brokers in every specialty. So I get to touch on all the different specialties because we have a hotel team. We have, every class of brokers that specialize in a sector. And then I also host America's Commercial Real Estate Show, which has been on air for 13 years. It's been a lot of fun, and doing that show. It's been a weekly show every week since then. And then I also have a online training company called commercialagentsuccess.com, and commercial agents around the country license 21 one-hour videos that we produced in front of a live audience with 3 cameras, and they're incredible training. And so that's kind of the 3 main things I do is broke, and I still broker deals personally. We have people that help run Bull Realty, so I get to actually do deals. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool that you're still doing deals, that it sounds like you've built your business the right way so that you can still do the things that you got into brokerage for, which was, brokering deals.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Bull Realty kind of you've got your hands in all different asset classes. And for any listeners of America's Commercial Real Estate Show, you really touch on all asset classes,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is really unique and really interesting about the show. So from a high level perspective, I know most of the deals that you're doing are in the Southeast. You're based in the Atlanta area. Can you give me, if it's possible, kind of a 30,000 foot view? What are you experiencing on the ground right now in commercial real estate?
Yeah, so we're seeing transaction volume down probably about 50% from a couple of years ago, when the market was pretty robust in 21. And that's because of the higher interest rates, right? Sellers trying to react to the new values and get comfortable with it, and buyers trying to do deals and underwrite with lender requirements today. So the transaction volume of investment sales is down about 50% throughout pretty much every sector that we deal in. Some are stronger than others, obviously, but and then the user side of the business, helping businesses with their space needs is still very, very busy. Our tenant reps are busy. Our landlord leasing, project leasing is busy. So it's a really good time for users, occupiers of space, right? There's a lot of opportunities for them right now. So that side's still very busy.
Michael, how would you advise a seller right now? A seller
Mhm.
comes to you and says, "Hey, Michael, I've got this office property. I'm thinking of selling it." What sorts of conversations are you having with potential sellers right now?
So it depends on the size of the building, right, right, where it is and its occupancy and then their loan maturity. And the condition of the asset. But so every advice would be predicated on that and the capital stack and what's going on with that buyer and their group and their tenants and all of that, right? But if it's time for them to sell, then it's time for them to sell. So I think the biggest challenge that we're seeing in the marketplace is just helping sellers understand that interest rates are back to more normal historic rates. So are values. Values had skyrocketed with really rising rental income on these properties every year with really incredibly low interest rate money. So the values were higher, and so the values have dropped. And so it's helping sellers understand that if you want to sell. Is it going to get better in 2 or 3 years? I think the velocity of transactions could get better, but only because sellers really become the realization of what values are. I've been doing this business for a long time and have been through several recessions. And it's like if back in the day, I remember a lot of cap rates were 10%. It's a 10 cap, right? All right? Well, maybe we're back there, right? It's a 10 cap, And you think about it, if you're going to pay cash for a property and own real estate and the risk associated with that, you'd probably like to have a 10% return. So if you weren't getting any financing, it's probably a fair cap rate, right? So we're seeing a lot of the deals we sell, and we've sold a bunch of deals in the last 3 weeks, and that they're really just selling at more realistic cap rates and prices. And a lot of these sellers too, they're still selling from a position of profit, right? They've had escalating rents, especially in multifamily and industrial. And so their values have escalated because their NOIs have gone up. And we're seeing some sellers that, with insurance rates rising and difficulty on refinancing, that, hey, they're going to go ahead and sell, take their profits and move down the road.
So tell me about the types of sellers that you're seeing right now, the deals that you're closing. Are these sellers that are selling kicking and screaming, or do they just sort of understand that this is the way real estate is? And hey, if I sold 18 months ago, I would have made more money, but you know what? Now I'm still making a profit. So, some people say, you don't go broke making a profit. So
Yeah.
what is the sentiment of sellers right now?
You want to make decisions looking through the windshield, not the rearview mirror. And so, that's one of the things we try to help sellers understand is to make decisions not based on what the market was 3 years ago. It's the market now. It's a realization of new values. So I think that, that's been the biggest challenge. I don't know if that answered your question, though. Well,
Yeah, I mean, I think is it hard for sellers to come to terms? Because I think a lot of sellers will say, or property owners will just say, "Oh, I'll wait 3 to 5 years for the market to go back up to 2021 levels."
Yeah,
And
no, we're not really hearing many sellers say that, and yeah, the type of sellers that we're selling, we've sold some government leased office buildings, and those are institutional owners, and they understand real estate very well, and so it's easy for them to make decisions. We're selling office buildings for banks, and they need and want to get out of them, and depending on the office buildings, sometimes we get higher prices than they think they would, and sometimes less, right? So you do have some distressed sales starting to happen, but and then we have sellers who are selling smaller buildings. So we sold some medical buildings that were smaller deals, like 8 million to 6 million, and they're just selling very well. They're just sellers that understand the industry well, and they know that, hey, it is what it is. It is what it's worth. So I think we're selling one distressed shopping center, but we're closing land deals, multifamily deals, and they're just folks who understand the new values and are moving forward. Now we're also seeing some loan assumptions on some loans that are assumable. We're also seeing some owner financing, which we haven't seen in 12 years. So we're starting to see more of that. So more creative deals. One of my videos at commercialagentsuccess.com is on creative methods to close sales transactions. And a lot of those skills are kind of coming back into play where it's just not, easy to do anymore. But also I think if you have any brokers listening, it's a great time to to really do a great job and gain market share. What we found at Bull Realty is that we get more market share growth in a down market than we do in a normal market. Because when sellers look a little closer at what the brokers actually do, we win more assignments. So because we have, not pat myself on the back, apologize, but we do a good job of marketing property. So, so a little bit of everything, but really just a lot of sellers understanding like you mentioned, Jonathan, a lot of them are still making a profit. But even when you're not making a profit, I was telling some of my brokers the other day, of all the properties I bought and sold in my career personally, the most exciting sale I'd ever sold that was my property I was selling was a vacant building. It was distressed. I've been dealing with a really bad tenant for a while, and I had to actually write a check at closing. And I was so excited because it was my last check, So, we can still provide great service as brokers, and still people want to move properties when they're looking through the windshield.
Yeah, I think that quote you said, that it's best to make decisions looking through the windshield rather than the rear view mirror. I think that's really smart, and it brings me to kind of your network and the number of investors and really smart people that you work with. I've had a couple guests that you've had on your show. I've interviewed them on my show. One of them that comes to mind is Anthony Delwig. And he just strikes me as someone who's been around a long time, super smart. And so I'm wondering, do you see any patterns in the really smart investors, the really experienced groups that you work with? Are you seeing any patterns of what sort of plays are the really smart investors making right now?
It really depends on the individual investors in the groups, right? So we see a lot of different plays. One, the swimmable financing route, the owner financing route. We're seeing some buyers that are more active because there's less buyer competition. For like some of the buyers who buy land are able to actually compete and get land because the apartment developers aren't scooping it up at higher prices. So there's a lot of folks that kind of like these markets, and it reminds me of calling a client that I've dealt with for decades when the market was really hot, and touched base with them about potentially buying a property, and they said, "Michael, we really appreciate you calling us. It's very cute that you called, but we only buy when there's distress, when it's a down market." And I know, but I need to stay in touch with you. So there's a lot of buyers that kind of come out and are looking. There's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of dry powder, people that are wanting to buy and looking to buy. It's also a very, very good time for occupiers and users. So.
Do you see this as the opportunity to get in? There's been a lot of talk about upcoming distress, particularly in the multifamily world with bridge debt coming due. Do you believe that we're at the bottom? Is the smart money starting to get in, or is the smart money still sitting on the sidelines?
That's probably dependent on the sector and the location, right, and the market and the submarket and probably the actual building. So I think, when there's less buyers competing with you, it's a good time to be looking and finding opportunities. I own some properties that I've owned for a long time, and I don't have any loans on them anymore. And it's like, what, if I got in when interest rates were higher and I got at a lower basis, then, most people, commercial real estate's a long-term hold. So if you can get in at a time where you get in at a lower basis, a lower price per square foot unit, whatever, and you're a long-term holder, you have more equity, right? So I think it's a great time for a lot of buyers to be out there looking. But as far as, one of the sayings I hate to hear from an investor is, "Well, I don't want to buy now. I don't want to catch a falling knife." And it's like, oh, I hate that saying. But, it's like the stock market. I mean, if you try to time it when it's at the absolute, bottom or top, it's going to be tough to do. And I think you just got to keep looking for the right assets and keep exploring them and looking at them. And obviously you adjust for the cost of your equity and your debt, but make offers when it makes sense, especially on well-located properties that you feel real comfortable with.
Michael, looking through some of your listings and both current listings and sold listings, it's really impressive that you have your hand in a lot of office transactions.
Mhm.
And if you talk to, if you read anything in the media, you'd hear that office is dead, office is doing terrible. And so I think it's really impressive that you're making such a good living and doing so well, largely yourself focused on office. One niche that I've noticed is that you seem to have a knack for getting listings where either the tenant or the owner is the government tenant. Anyone from, a branch of the Air Force or the Attorney General's office. Can you explain kind of your strategy with, the disposition of these types of assets?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jonathan. And my brokers very much specialize in their sectors, right? So, like we have a medical office team that focuses there. So their job is to know all the buildings, know all the owners, know all the groups, the REITs, the funds, everyone, the high net individuals, everyone that's in that space and know that market really well. We did to do the same thing. We have a group that does the government office that I was leading. And now I'm doing more of the just regular office and distressed office around the country, but and helping banks and lenders. And but in that group, it's the same thing. Just really focus on all those people who own those and control those and buy those. And that specialty itself, there's a lot of people, investors, and brokers that stay away from it because it's dealing with a government tenant, right? And it sometimes can be frustrating. We sold one recently where the big government tenant had been there a year and a half with no lease, and and we sold it to a buyer, and they got a loan with the tenant not even having a lease, just holding over and not paying holdover rent, just paying regular rent, and but the tenants typically are very sticky in that space. So if you have the fortitude and to deal with the government tenants, they can be a very sticky tenant, and they're always going to have the money to pay because they're going to take it from us, right? So they're going to be able to pay. So there's some safety there in the credit, right? But there's a lot of folks that kind of will call on those properties, thinking they're buying a single tenant triple net investment property, and while it's single tenant, it's not triple net and it's not hands off. So it is a more involved property type that a lot of people just don't really want to deal with.
Right. I've heard that there are some real trade offs with government tenants. While it's, the lease is often backed by the full faith and credit of the United States of America, you're going to be pretty certain they're going to pay that bill. I've heard in some of the branches of the government, they don't want to lift a finger. I mean, if a light bulb goes out, you're getting that phone call from the tenant to go over and change light bulbs. Has that been your experience?
Yes. But that's obviously built into the numbers. It's built into the cost, and it's built into the cap rates, and what you're paying for the property. But yes, you do need a good management arm or company to take care of that. That's used to dealing with the government. Hopefully.
Okay. So 35 years in commercial real estate. I think that's what your bio says.
Mm-hmm.
26 years at Bull Realty. You said you have over 50 agents in your office. What sort of advice or mentorships are you offering or giving to your brokers right now? Some of whom may be going through their first downturn, their first difficult time after, the previous few years was pretty good for a lot of people in commercial real estate. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what sort of conversations are you having with young agents right now?
Well, a lot of different conversations, and it's a good question. And one is that, to give an example of my business, when I started, it was a good market, and I was doing well. And I was starting probably about 9 o'clock, and then I'd work for an hour and a half, and I'd go take guitar lessons, and then I would go to lunch, and I'd come back, work for 3 hours maybe. Then I'd go to the gym and play basketball and all that. And I was young, I had, a Mercedes, a Jeep. I owned a triplex. I lived in a mountain. I mean, I thought my life was going to be glorious forever, right? And then recession hit hard. Every deal cratered. Everything went to heck. And so that was really a saving grace for me, because that's when I really buckled down and became a very, very good broker and set up systems and processes and calendars and technology and efficiency. And so I think brokers that are in this market can really hone their skills very, very well. It's a good time to be training. It's a good time to be working on all your systems and your technology, and making a lot of contacts with folks. But I think if you learn the business in a market like this, then you are going to be golden forever, because you know how to do it well. And you also, and I'll repeat it again, we found that we're not a national company. We're a regional company, and we compete with the national companies, and depending on the property type, and we find that we win more and gain more market share in a down market. So I think if you're an aggressive broker, that aggressive might not be the best word, assertive broker, and you're out there doing what you should do every day, then you can really pick up some good market share. It reminds me of a broker running a shop for one of the nationals here in the last recession, and we're at an event, and we're saying, "How's it going?" "Oh, it's tough." "How's your going?" "Tough." And he said, "But I got this one broker, this one agent at our office that's just really killing it." And I'm like, what do you mean? What's he doing? What's he doing? He said, "Well, Michael, he's so new that he's not like the other brokers going, 'Oh, the market's bad. Whoa, it's tough. Whoa, whoa, whoa.' No, he's just running our plays and do what he's supposed to do every day. And he's just doing a lot of deals." So it's like, you just got to get it out of your head that you can't do well. You got to get it back in your head just to run the daily plays that you're supposed to run.
I'm coming from an investor's perspective. I'm an owner operator investor, and sometimes I find it hard to get the attention of brokers when I'm interested in a deal. They may not know me, they may not know my track record. What advice do you have for investors looking to get the attention of a broker, looking to get a broker to take them seriously?
Yeah, that can be a challenge. And I could give you several ideas to, uh, one is to, when you contact them, just do it very professionally and let them know, try to get to know them and try to have the right approach. And then another thing that we've seen some investors do is have a broker represent them, right? That's very credible. I've dealt with some investors where they dealt with me because they knew I had a reputation with sellers and listing agents, that if I was working with them, there was really no question about them. And so I think if you can get with the right broker, that you can build that relationship with, one of the good ways to do that is let that broker know honestly your capability, your track record, whether you have your equity raised or not, that you'll look at deals quickly, that you'll analyze them quickly and get back to them, that you'll also protect them on off-market deals, that you'll keep them confidential, and if you need to, you'll underwrite their commission. And so if you're telling brokers that, and you're being honest with them about your capability, and also if the most you can give them about your real target for your criteria. It's like when I have an investor go, "Oh, we buy anything and everything, anywhere." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I can't help you." I mean, that's not enough direction. And then if you can find brokers, obviously, that specialize in what you want in the area and build relationships. But we've just had two recent ones where investors who were very legit couldn't get the response from the brokers at these big shops, and they just engaged us, and we've come in and just figured it out and worked it out. And in some cases, you got to tell them, we have to tell the investor, "You're going to have to underwrite our fee. Yeah, I'm sure you'll negotiate the deal accordingly." And they go, "Yeah, we get it. We're not getting a response from these folks. If you call them, they'll respond to you, Michael, and we'll get the information. We can work through the deal." And we just closed a couple like that where the listing brokers just weren't responsive. So that's an idea. And then when you do make offers, making sure your offer is very professional. A lot of times as brokers, we look at the letter of intent and we get an idea of the professionalism and the experience of the buyer. When you write a purchase and sale agreement, the same thing. What the buyers ask and don't ask. So I think, and when you do make offers, make one of the ways I've seen buyers get attention from sellers or brokers is to have really high earnest money amounts. Obviously, you want to make sure it's safe, the contract's safe, and it's in a safe place. But sometimes you get attention of these sellers and agents is to do something like that. I remember this lady one time. I was in my 20s. I've been in the business, 5 or 6 years, so I of course knew everything. And this lady came in to write an offer on an apartment deal, and she said, "I want to put down $1 million earnest money." And I'm like taking the notes, what she's going to offer to write up. We're going to write a purchase sale agreement. And I said, "Well, you don't have to do that much earnest money." And this, it was only like a $3 million deal. And she said, "Yeah, that's what I'm doing." And I started to tell her again, because, I was that experienced. I knew everything at that point. And she said, "No," she said, I said it again. And she said, "Michael, let me tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to write $1 million earnest money check. And you told me you're presenting this offer in person, right?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You're going to take my check and you're going to turn it around facing the seller and you're going to slide it over the table right in front of them when you present my offer." I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am. Absolutely." So, and I've seen sellers
How did it work?
agents. It worked very well. And I've seen sellers and agents, pick lower priced offers with higher earnest money. So I think showing your ability and showing, how you, like, we do buyer interviews. So a lot of these deals, we get multiple competing offers. And as brokers, we're interviewing the buyers and we're asking them these questions. So be ready for these questions. How are you funding it? Tell us about your debt, your equity. Is it raised? Have you been to the property? Have you underwritten it? Do you know the comps? Do you know the condition? And so, because as brokers and most sellers want surety of close, and they don't want to pick the wrong horse and just waste a lot of time. So I think those are some quick ideas on how to get brokers and sellers' attention.
Yeah, that's great. You hit on a couple things that I want to follow up on. You had talked about maybe a potential, whether it was an off-market deal or just a deal where the buyer, potential buyer couldn't get the selling broker's attention. And you said, well, you would advise the buyer to underwrite your fee into their numbers. Can you talk more about that? Would that be a situation where the selling broker is not offering a broker co-op to you, or in what scenario would a buyer need to do that?
Well, it could be both. It could be where a listing agent's not sharing a commission, and you probably see more of that with this lawsuit that's happened with NAR. But in commercial real estate, it's always a lot of that's been done, especially on the larger transactions. So the larger the transaction, the more the listing brokers are not selling it publicly and they're not sharing commissions. So could be in that situation. But we do a letter of authorization with our tenants and our buyers that says that, hey, 98, 99% of the time we're going to be paid by the landlord or seller. But we also want to show you anything and everything on the market. If you have a seller, for example, that's not offering commissions and doesn't have it listed potentially, that could be the best deal because he's not getting prospects, right? And so you want to know the best deal. So if the best deal, you say you're looking at 3 deals and the best one is with you underwriting the agent and it's still the cheapest, best deal, don't you want to know about it? Absolutely. So a good broker should be able to share with a tenant or a buyer, look, this is how you would compensate us, and you'll know when we present you the deal. So I could show you a deal today and say, hey, it's $5 million. We want you to underwrite a fee of X to us. On top of that, you would know when we present it to you, you'd negotiate accordingly. And if all the other properties you look at are very similar and they're 6 or 7, you're like, great. Thank you, Michael. And also it can help a broker find something directly from an owner for you, right? Where you come to me and you say, Michael, this is what I want. I'll protect you. I'll underwrite your fee. I'll sign a letter of authorization for the state of Georgia, let's say. And then I go contact all the owners directly. And some of those owners can't sell off market, because they need a process to show that they did it right. But some can and will. So, especially some of the larger deals where, we're working on one that's really, really large. It's about 390 million, and the buyer's underwriting us. But when we call a seller of a property like that, they're like, "Who's your client?" So as a broker, if we've got an agreement where our buyer's underwriting our fee, we can tell them this is our client, and they go, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's work on this." So there's kind of several ideas quickly there, but I hope some of them work for some people.
Yeah, I mean, I just love listening to you talk about this stuff because, I mean, your 35 years of experience is clearly coming out. I mean, it seems like you've basically seen it all. And if you yourself haven't, one of the agents on your team has seen it. And so I think, just listening to you really speaks volumes about the importance of having an experienced agent or broker in the market, in the asset class, someone that's doing deals, because the deals are constantly changing, the market's constantly changing, and I'm sure you can speak to 18 months ago this is what we were seeing, but now in November 2023 this is what we're seeing. And so I think just what you went through just speaks to the value of having an experienced agent. So, Michael, with all of your experience, 26 years at Bull Realty, 35 years overall, what have been some of the biggest keys, if you could identify a couple, what have been some of the biggest keys to your success over the past few decades?
Keys to my success. Well, I guess first of all, not thinking I'm successful, just always trying to do
Staying
better
humble.
and do more and being more efficient. But I think just taking care of the client, right? Treating people right, using integrity, um, and being there, showing up, responding to inquiries very quickly, and treating everyone in a transaction the way you would want to be treated if you were them. Obviously, we keep in mind who our client is, but I think when we treat everyone right, it just builds our business, right? And then another thing that I share with my guys is if you do the absolute best job you can at whatever you're doing, you will get more opportunities. And I was asked by my boss when I was 19, where I got my motivation from, and I wasn't prepared for it. And I told him that answer from my heart, and he dismissed me as I walked down the carpeted hallway. I went, "Damn, I should have said I was looking for a raise," but I really wasn't. I just really felt that if I did the best, absolute best job I can at whatever I'm doing, I will get more opportunities. So I think in brokerage, it's the same way. If you're say you take an assignment, you're taking it to market. Well, a lot of people see that assignment, and if they can see from that you're professional and good, it just helps build your business. So, I think the keys have been that just honesty, integrity, doing the best job I can, and then also a lot of training. Just continually training a lot all the time. Just never feeling like I did when I was in the business 4 or 5 years that I knew everything. And so to just keep training all the time. We have all the training from everybody. I create training, which we license, and then I do training. I've trained on stand-up comedy. I've taken classes on hosting television shows. I've taken classes on public speaking. I'm continually trying to train and hone my skills so that I can provide better services for my clients, right, and build my business.
Yeah, that's great. When you were talking, it reminded me of a Zig Ziglar quote that I'm going to butcher, but something along the lines of, "If you want to get what you want, help enough people get what they want, and
Mhm.
it'll come back to you."
Yeah,
So, yeah,
it's a good one.
yeah, love that.
I did
Um,
one. I have one I saw the other day, and this is not mine, but it's a similar one. When you light a candle for others, it also brightens your path.
yeah, that's good. That's good. Michael, from one thing I admire about you and other people in your situation, and that something that's really evident by your podcast as well is your extensive professional network. So the guests you bring on are heavyweights in commercial real estate. And it's clear from your conversations with them that these are people that you have pre-existing relationships with, or probably clients, advisors to you. So I'm wondering, what advice or suggestions do you have for young investors, brokers who are trying to cultivate those relationships, professional relationships in the industry? What advice do you have for people trying to build those?
Yeah. So for the show, it's a little different, I think, than the business. So the show for me has been great. When I first started it, for the first 2 or 3 years, it was terrible because I spent so much time on it, and the audience is so small, it just was crazy. And I wished I hadn't started it, but then over the years it grew. So I think what I hear from my guest is they just really enjoy being on the show, and they enjoy the numbers, the size of the audience, and they get feedback usually that they were on it when they're out speaking or whatever. So I think doing really, really good interviews. You're doing a great job. Doing really good interviews for the show is key. And then for the professional network of brokers and investors and users, I think that really is, if you're a commercial agent and you pick a specialty, then you can become good at that, right? Not be a jack of all trades and a master of none. So all of our brokers are very specialized. So if they do senior housing, they do senior housing. They do medical office, they do medical. If they do medical tenant rep, they do medical tenant rep. So they're very focused. So you have an idea then of who you need to know, and you can design a plan that we train for in commercialagentsuccess.com, where you narrow in. You say, well, how many owners of properties is that? How many buildings is it? What geographic area? What minimum size? And then you say, all right, well, those people are going to know who I am. They're going to know I'm good at what I do, and there's nothing they could damn do about it. And I had damn because it's like, if you're a broker, this is what you got to do, right? Now, you can't make anyone work with you, but you can make those other things happen. And then you can study that market really well and provide good comps and good market information, good market data, good management tips, financing tips, knowing who's doing the best financing. So my brokers that's very much specialized just become so much of an expert that they just add a lot of value, and those relationships happen.
Yeah, that is great stuff. Michael, as we finish up here, if listeners want to reach out to you or learn more about you, where would you like to send listeners?
They can always email me if they want, Michael at bullrealty.com. Also, unlike most websites, you can actually get my contact information at my websites, bullrealty.com for our brokerage. And that's, Southeast U.S. mainly, selling every kind of property type and service. And then at CREshow.com, CREshow.com, they can watch show videos and audios, and I have an answer section on there, especially if they're brokers, where I answer questions. And then if they're agents and they want training, commercialagentsuccess.com, and all those have my contact information. It's always think it's crazy when I go to websites and I can't figure out how to reach the companies, and you have one form, a contact form, and you use that and no one gets back to you. Tip for everybody: make sure your social media, all your websites, we can find you.
Yeah, I have the same frustration that you go to a company's website and it's basically impossible to contact them, and you fill out that
Yeah.
contact page and it just goes into a black hole somewhere. So
Yeah.
always good, especially if you want to build your client base.
Yeah.
Always good to have the ability for people to contact you for sure.
That's
So,
right.
Michael Bull, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. Your podcast, America's Commercial Real Estate Show, I think is on another level. The guests that you have, the surveys that you go over, the market intel, and the guests that you're able to get on the show is. I don't know of anyone else doing the same thing. And so it's a great show that listeners should check out. And Michael, sincerely appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your attention and your expertise today.
Great, Jonathan. Thank you. I appreciate being on with you.
Listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, feel free to reach out to either one of us. We love talking about commercial real estate. You have tons of choices in podcasts. We are grateful that you chose to listen and be a part of our conversation with us today. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.